What is Sapori? So Sapori is going to be an online music marketing brand with a goal of creating a community of artists, producers, and musicians, while also offering affordable recording and mixing prices for underground and developing artists. We're going to be targeting young underground and developing musicians, artists, and producers, while also targeting freelance artists, musicians, and producers who already do this sort of work on their own. I've broken down like our launch process into 4 stages. But to summarize it briefly into some goals, short-term goals, really we're just going to be focusing on networking and building contacts with artists, producers, musicians, content creators, other influencers, and starting to work with local artists, recording with them. Midterm goals, we're hoping to open our first official studio and start successfully hosting local events and shows. And then long term, we're going to be opening about 5 to 6 more locations across the country, and then franchising to partner with entrepreneurs to further develop the brand and expand our outreach. And also building a global online following. Now, to get into actual products and services that we're going to be offering, we'll have a clubhouse style content creation co working space with music recording studios, podcast talk shows, photography rooms, anything to create content for these artists. And we'll also be offering marketing services like consultations and just promotion with the company. And bookings and sales will be helping artists find different places to be selling their music or booking them for different shows. And we'll also be actually having our own events and shows where we could book our artists and bring in revenue that is another way of bringing in revenue. So that brings me to the next point as sources of revenue. We'll be charging for studio time, but as I said, we plan to make it affordable for underground and developing artists, and a co-working space membership, which is separate from renting studio time. Marketing consultations, promotions. For all the bookings and sales that we help our artists find, we'll have a finder's fee. And any events, we'll be charging things like entry price, like food and drink. All right, now to get into industry statistics, flexible co-working spaces are set to take up 30% of the U.S. office stock by 2030, and the current estimated market cap is at $26 billion. Over the last few years, the market has really been ballooning and is set to dominate commercial real estate within the next few years. It has been expanding into niche-based workspaces. And at the moment, there's an estimated 5.1 million co-working, or they're estimated that there will be a 5.1 million co-working memberships by the end of 2022, or by the start of 2022. And another thing to note is the average growth of the arts and culture sector is 4.2% annually, whereas the average growth of the overall GDP in the U.S. economy is only 2.2% annually. And this is a trend that started in 2015. So as I said before, I broke down our launch process into stages. So our first stage, which we're in right now, we're just building contacts. We're starting to record with underground artists for free and cheap rates. And we're starting to connect artists together so they can collaborate with each other. And we're growing a social media following and engagement on social media, and developing a strong brand online. Now, after we get through that stage, we're going into stage 2, where we're going to be launching our first official studio site, and that's where we get into increasing the revenue with our membership fees for the co-working spaces. We'll continue expanding contacts as we'll now have an actual location to be recording and building the company seriously. And we'll both be growing the online and local presences and hosting small events for local artists. Now, next stage 3, we're going to be expanding to multiple cities across the country, into cities like New York, Atlanta, Chicago, LA, Seattle, Nashville. And with these new openings, we're going to be repeating step 2 or stage 2 of the launch process, which is where we opened the first location. And as we're doing that, we also will be establishing a corporate office to manage all of these new locations, manage the brand content and production for the overall brand, and work on strategy and planning for the overall brand, and scaling and working individually with these spaces as well. And after we get that going, moving on to stage 4, we're going to be launching as a franchise, because we'll now have the blueprint that we need to go on and pass that to new entrepreneurs to actually partner with and expand our reach across the country. And with that, we'll be giving them the full blueprint. Like I said, we'll be hosting team trainings to make sure that they can have everything that they need to actually launch, and have a full studio built so that they can actually have somewhere to launch out of. And part of stage 4, we'll also be starting to build our global presence, our global online presence through social media, and we'll be beginning to find international partners to establish our corporate offices in other continents. All right, you can end it there. So we were just talking about our plans for global presence, but that is years, possibly like a decade away. I want to talk about right now where we are as a group, as Sapori right now in stage 1. What I'm asking for is your help with your connections, your contacts in existing businesses, and potentially winning this competition and earning funding in other sources to begin developing this as we go through stage 1 into stage 2 of this process.